Episode 28.
Welcome to Into the 99, guys. I'm one of your hosts, Hope.
I'm Daniel.
I'm Tyrone.
And today we're going to talk about banning a card.
And the ban list in general. What's on it, what maybe we think might deserve to be on it.
Well, yeah, because not really everyone actually looks. They know what's on it based on, hey, we've seen this card before, nobody plays it. So no one actually knows what a lot of them do. No one knows what Sylvan Primordial does because you just don't see it in Commander.
I sure don't.
Yeah, lots of people don't actually look. So let's look at things that are currently on the ban list, why they're on the ban list, a few things we think a few cards should come off the ban list, and then we're going to discuss some that should go on to the ban list. Mm-hmm. So let's just get into a little bit of the ban list right now quickly. Obviously, the Power 9 generally should be banned.
Yeah.
The ability to take an extra turn at 2 mana, crazy. Draw 3 cards at 1 blue mana, crazy.
Everyone knows about Black Lotus,
Yeah. They would be format warping cards, and you'd have such an inherent advantage over running any of the Moxes. Whereas Mox Amber is a similar card, but you need a legendary creature out. There's some kind of a downside rather than a 0 cost tap for a blue.
Yeah, they're called the Power 9 for a reason. You know, they're extremely powerful cards.
Yeah, they were
in any format.
They were just printed at a time that didn't really make sense to. They didn't understand where the game was going, what it was.
And they couldn't have.
Yeah, and they didn't really understand the ramifications that a 0 cost sack for 3 mana would bring.
Because it didn't have any ramifications. There was what there was, and that's all there was.
Yeah, but short of those, we'll just go over a few of the ones that are on it and talk about why they clearly are. One of the first ones I have highlighted here is Channel. Channel is green, a sorcery. Until end of turn, anytime you could activate a mana ability, you can pay 1 life. If you do, add a colorless to your pool. So in Commander, you have access to 40 life off the get-go. This lets you potentially turn to Emrakul, Ulamog, and Kozilek.
Oh yeah. One of the things, before we continue with the list, I've noticed too, is a lot of the cards on the ban list, I kind of put them into 3 categories too. It's either unfun, and by that I mean they salt people real bad.
Wreck the game.
Yeah. They're combo enablers. And some of them, are really bad. Real awful to play against. If you could imagine, Griselbrand even is a huge combo piece.
Well, yeah, for everyone who doesn't know, Griselbrand, he does have a big cost. He's a legendary demon in black. I think he's 8 total mana, is that right?
Yeah,
he's
4 and 4 black.
Yeah, 4 and 4 black. He's 8 mana for a 7/7 flying lifelinker, which is already strong. That already would be great stats on a demon. Everyone would be happy with it. But he also has pay 7 life, draw 7 cards. And that's where he gets into the realm of broken. Because even before he deals damage, him hitting the board, you can pay that at instant speed. So it's Commander. We talk all the time about how life is a resource. You can easily pay 14 life, draw 14 cards the minute he hits the board without interaction.
Well, and to that end, with regards to not only Griselbrand, but even what you were talking about before with the Witch's Channel, to start with, 40 life allows for a really easy access to those abilities, but also it's so easy to gain life in Commander because you have so much access to life gain cards and doubling effects and all that. So it's really easy to manipulate your life total.
Yeah, it's so easy to get it back.
Yep.
It is a resource. We say it all the time. So other things that are on it, they give an inherent not fun experience. Panoptic Mirror is a great card that most people would think is a really fun time. I thought it'd be a really fun time. I was going to use it for ramp spells. It was great. But when you see the ability and combine it with extra turns, you say, oh, well, this locks everyone else out of the game. If they don't have an answer, we lose. Panoptic Mirror is an artifact for 5, and it has imprint, X, and tap. You can remove instant or sorcery from your hand with X from the game, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you can just cast it without paying its mana cost. So you pay the instant or sorcery 1 time after it comes in, and then you just get to do it. And you can do multiple imprints on it, so you can every turn be like, well, I'm going to take an extra 2 turns, Temporal Mastery.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty. It's stuff like that the stuff that really should be banned is stuff like that where it's so simple to abuse and really take it out of the core idea of what it was originally made for, and just take it and twist it into something nasty.
Well, and that's another thing that we want to talk about with the ban list. When we're talking about it, it's there isn't a real ban list. There's a kind of agreed on set of cards from the rules committee The rules committee says they believe Commander's more fun, but nothing's stopping you and your playgroup if you want to run a Grizzlebrand Commander and everyone you play with is fine. Then there's nothing wrong. Like there's no one's hauling you off to jail for playing it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Right?
at the end of the day, it's a casual format.
It is a casual format. But at the same time, I think that the social contract of the game stops people from playing a lot of cards that would make this list if they saw more play.
Yeah.
Like, and like, some of the other things I've really noticed along those lines, it's just like, we'll get into it later in the show, but it's just like, if there were like ways you could restrict that card, right?
Yeah, some things that, this shouldn't be a commander, but like I understand that Leovold is inherently not fun. I love the artwork, I love the card. I would love to make a Leovold deck, but I understand that he's easily abusable, and therefore he's not, because he can fit in the commander spot. The same with Rofellos. Rofellos is on the list. He's 2 green for an elf druid. He taps for 1 mana for every forest you control. In the command zone, it is obviously broken.
And it's just like, with going along, like, with that too, like, the, Urza, like, I think Urza should get banned. We'll get into that later, right?
I believe Urza, straight out at this point as well, is the first card that deserves to be banned as a commander that I've seen.
Yeah. But when he's in part of the 99, I've noticed it's not as bad. It's not as
fun.
format warping. It's
yeah.
actually a fun card to use.
But I don't think there's a way. I've said it before. I don't think there's a fun way to build Urza. Urza is just an inherently annoying card.
Yeah.
He turns everything artifact-wise into value engines, and he has his ability, his token generator that like creates the enormous construct. He just has too much value packed into his card at 4 mana. He is just absurdly broken as a commander.
Yeah, and like I said, it's one of those things we can get into later in the show too. But it's just like I said, the contract will help with a lot of this too. Like, you just got to be, your playgroup's got to be okay with it.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like the 3 categories you broke it down to do make a lot of sense, because yes, combo enablers are obviously on the list, absurdly broken cards, and then just things that aren't fun. We have cards on the list like Upheaval, which is 6 mana sorcery, return all permanents to their owner's hand. It's just a full game reset, and that's not fun. For everyone who's ever had to deal with something like that, a full board wipe, which everyone always says is not in the social contract, like, it's not fun to lose all of your things in one go, restart the game, especially if you were in a good spot, especially if you cleverly put your deck together to try, make yourself have like a good curve. If you did all that, you waste all your things, all your instants and sorceries to ramp things out. Then all of a sudden they're in the graveyard, all permanents are back in hand. It's just not a fun card.
Well, and to that end, like, somebody does the exact same thing with Worldfire, exiles everything, and then everybody's
Life total
becomes 1. So really, it's like whoever gets the next turn and has something with haste wins.
Well, the issue is that a lot of people put a damage on the stack, like a damage to each opponent on the stack, then Worldfire in response. So Worldfire resolves.
And then everybody gets pinged. It's just...
Yeah, it's just not fun. And there are a lot of things on the list that are easily abusable in EDH, and that's why they're not in. Gifts Ungiven is a card that I don't think is so bad until you look at graveyard strategies like Mimeoplasm, Muldrotha, anything like that, because it's essentially a tutor 4. It's you tutor 2 cards to your hand, 2 cards to your graveyard. The opponents choose, but in something like Muldrotha and something like if you could run it in like a Marin deck or a Reanimate or a Mimeoplasm, you're just fetching 4 big creatures, 2 to your hand, 2 to your graveyard to like play.
Yeah. He's
inherently pretty broken. It's also broken in Kess because you just fetch things that have flashback from the grave so you can copy them. Like it's not it is a format warping card because a tutor 4 for 4 is nuts.
That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and then you see things that just obviously cannot work, like a Karakas, a land that comes in untapped, legendary land, so that you can tap it for a plains or return target legendary to its owner's hand for a tap. Obviously has no place in Commander. It can't.
No.
So not when all you're going to be doing is targeting somebody's commander. That's just how that works.
So everyone has
broken evasion.
Yeah, everyone has like a general idea of what's on the ban list, why it's on the ban list. I want to get into why I think a few cards specifically should come off the ban list. Number 1,
Sorry, going back to that. My favorite card on the ban list, though, Shahrazad.
Yeah, Shahrazad should be banned.
Yeah. You like playing Magic? Yeah. Let's play it for hours.
That's crazy.
Let's play another game of Magic. That's how much we like it.
Yeah.
Back to the 4 cards that I think we're going to go in order. We're going to discuss them a little bit. Number 1 is Black Braids. So, Black Braids, if anyone doesn't know, it's Braids Cabal minion. It's 4 mana for the black version of Braids. It's a 2/2 creature. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices an artifact, creature, or land. You're not excluded from this. It is against everyone. There's cards that hit it worse, and yeah, I get it could be annoying, but it's a creature, right? It has no built-in evasion. It has nothing to stop you from casting spells.
It's only a 2/2.
Yep, it is not the worst card. It dies to every piece of removal you can throw at it.
And late game, there are worse cards, like Liliana Dreadhorde General.
Well, yeah, and there's also All is Dust. All is Dust sacking all colored permanents late into the game versus, like, you get to choose to sack one thing. I understand it hits lands and stuff, and I don't personally think it reaches the power level of everything else. That's my issue with all. We have 4 that we think should come off the list. Every one of them just does not reach the power level of everything else. This isn't the same power level as Fastbond, where I can pay 5 life and have 6 mana turn 1.
Well, and the argument that it can target lands, potentially, is something that I don't really think is like a strong enough argument to keep it on the ban list, because then all land destruction cards should be banned.
Yep.
Anything with Annihilator should be banned, which, I mean, I'm sure some people want to make a case for, but
but that's just what I mean, right? Like, there's Braids is, I just can't see a mono black deck being that oppressive with, like, having to sacrifice some things. Like, there's no built-in protection.
Well, and
black doesn't have evasion spells. It doesn't have, like, it's not like Sheltering Light like in white. It's not counter spell heavy. Like, this card's gonna die. It's gonna make you the target of the table.
Well, and with or without Black Braids, like, what mono black deck isn't making me sacrifice stuff?
Yeah.
Right?
And another thing you're seeing more and more is just things to exile, permanent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's becoming more and more prevalent as you go, as you play, as Commander evolves.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It just, in my opinion, this is the first of the cards we think that just do not meet the power level to be on this ban list. This is not Ancestral Recall strong.
No.
And this isn't Upheaval or Worldfire level unfun. You know, it's not Arreo Soratami Ascendant, where it flips into an enchantment in a blue deck where you can just keep countering and everyone has to sack a spell each turn to play spells. That's unfun. I understand that. That can wreck people's games at 2 mana. But at the end of the day, like, you're not in a color that's protecting this Braids. This Braids I cannot see being problematic. If someone has a deck list that they'd like to show me, and, like, even we're starting to play, like, games one-on-one in the Discord servers, I'd love to see someone play a Black Braids deck and just show me I'm wrong. Show me that it's a overwhelmingly oppressive card. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The next card.
Could you imagine a Strayonic Resonator with that?
Yeah, I could, but it's like...
But that's it. You can't untap it, so you can make one person double trigger. So
who cares?
Get
rid of your artifacts.
It hits you too. Like, that's the worst thing about it. Like, you have to sack your creatures and stuff too. So
you're not...
to make this viable, you have to have, like, something generating artifacts as well as Braids or creatures. Like, you've got to have just a bunch, and you have, like, 3 other angry players swinging at you because you're making them sack things. But like looking at this deck style can't beat it can't beat a Slimefoot deck.
It's like, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, no, because you'll just...
Any deck that can make, like, a single token can, like, be, you know?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
That's where I'm at.
So,
I'm just not that concerned about it. Like, I remember when I first started playing, I'm like, why on earth is this on the ban list? Like, I don't get it. I'm like, I don't think it's that strong, but whatever.
Card number 2 that I think should come off the ban list is Paradox Engine.
Oh, please, God. Oh, please.
Hear me out on it, though. Paradox Engine sucks by itself. Urza is the thing that finally, like, it's the straw that broke the camel's back with it, but it's not a good card by itself. You have to have a pretty already ahead board state to make it. It's like having an Omniscience out if you have no cards in hand. Omniscience is a great card. It's very powerful. But
But if you're not drawing...
Yeah, you have to have something to do with it. And that's the same with this. Like, what if I have, like, 4 non-land permanents and none of them are mana generators and stuff? What am I going to do? Cast 2 creature spells, untap my things that don't do anything?
I don't know. The only other deck I can actually see it being really broken in is, like, Elf Ball.
But it's still the same thing, though. You run out of elves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't have an endless supply of the elves. So, like, sure, I might get 3 untaps of my Priest of Titania. That's awesome. But still have to have the Priest of Titania. I have to have something to do with the mana for it. Priest of Titania itself only taps for 1 if it's the only elf. You have to have a board state to use this card. And again, it's an artifact with nothing built in to remove it. You can still respond to them. Like, I don't know, I just don't...
Yeah, like, artifact destruction is pretty easy.
I saw many decks run this card, and I was not bothered by it.
It's situationally good.
Yes, it has to be mid to late game. And if you're mid to late game, then I probably have an answer.
Yeah, but the other thing, too, is, like, we shouldn't just restrict cards. That's the same as saying Craterhoof should be banned, should be on the ban list because people play it as their win card. If this is your I win card because it's enabling it, then, like, what's the difference and stuff, right? Like, I've never seen anyone just drop Craterhoof onto an empty board and be like, well, I'll swing with it.
Or pass.
Yeah. Right? Like, there's just certain cards that don't function. Like, you could argue Purphoros is much stronger because Purphoros is active from the minute he's there. He's indestructible. Stuff like that. Like, Purphoros is...
The original Purphoros?
Yes, exactly. The 2 damage per enter.
Yeah.
That's a great card. Obviously, everyone's seen it go off in every Goblin deck imaginable because I don't think you can make Krenko without it. They come together.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. They won't let you leave the store if you don't buy both. I've seen it.
Yeah.
But...
It's a package deal.
But it's just one of those things. I would argue that, like, the God cards are stronger because they're so hard to get rid of.
Yeah, exactly. They're an indestructible thing.
If it's an enchantment.
Yeah, it's not often. It's an indestructible enchantment most of the time. It's not like Return to Dust, Merciless Eviction hits it.
Yeah. Well, Merciless Eviction is exile, so yes, it does.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's Return to Dust and Merciless Eviction.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying it's not like Merciless Eviction hits it. I'm like, yes, it does.
No, that's what I'm saying. There's only
but it's
so
like
many
if
things that
that's
exile
the
them.
only enchantment I want to deal with, then I have to pay 6 mana to get rid of 1 card that is going back to the command zone. Like, I'd rather...
Yeah, and there's other things to exile permanents, but at the same time, again, like their Paradox Engine, I didn't see it being... It was I saw it run in my brother's Persistent Petitioners deck, and that was good, but it was only good if he had A, a ton of Persistent Petitioners out, and B, a handful of Persistent Petitioners.
Say that 5 times
fast. I was going to say, like, there's only so many in his hand, right?
Yeah,
like,
there's a limit.
And it's even if you have something...
does not exist.
Even if you have a Vanquisher's Banner out, right? And you're drawing every time you do it, what's the likelihood you're going to hit every one of them as a draw, right? Like, there's a limit to it. I get it, but the games have to end. Just because it's a card that helps a game end doesn't mean it's ban-worthy. And it's just not that great. This in your opening hand is not an exciting opening hand.
No.
Yeah. And I think
I probably wouldn't even keep it.
Well, yeah, it's just like... But, once again, I think that's the reason it got banned, though, is because it combo-enabled Urza. And Urza's the problem.
Yeah. Yes.
Urza is a much bigger problem than Paradox Engine because, you could suddenly tap the Paradox Engine for mana along with everything else. Then it's a problem because Urza lets you cast on his ability. So basically, once you had 5... once you had 5 artifacts on deck and Urza brings one of them with him, then you can just essentially infinitely cast because you pay the 5 mana, you cast the first card you exile, unless you hit a land, you can infinitely cast. So, yeah, he's the problem. Urza's the issue, not the Paradox Engine, right? And that's how many decks it crippled versus the one deck that it didn't stop. Yeah. Like, it's not like Urza's not annoying anymore. Like,
it's not like Urza's all of a sudden a weak commander.
Yeah, all of a sudden they ban Paradox Engine and everyone's like, well, better go sell these Winter Orbs. I was just
going to say, I got to take this apart.
Yeah, like, it's just that it's still an absurdly strong commander that sits there and taps Winter Orb and Static Orb and Howling Mine and just gets every piece of value while you get nothing.
Yep.
Yeah, like, he was the problem and stuff, right? So I could see more of a case for Urza being a ban than the Paradox Engine. Like, again, I played against many decks that ran it. I never thought it was problematic.
No, I agree
Yeah.
100% with that.
The next card on the list here is Iona, Shield of Emeria.
Oh.
So we kind of want to tie this one back to the next. It's going to be the first card we talk that should come onto the ban list. But we're just going to quickly touch on it. I don't think Iona's ban worthy.
I don't think Iona's that strong. She costs 9 to play.
Short of if you're playing against like
9.
every other deck is like a mono green deck, then I mean, sure.
Yeah.
But even still, like,
Sure.
I know most people that play Iona, myself included, with Sandbagger all the time.
Some people would,
And-
but the other thing is when you dropped it, you were targeted by the table. It was a salt
Yeah.
card. I never like that's when people start bargaining and say, "Hey, can you remove this and help me out?"
Yeah.
And that's the core of the game.
There would be like 2 people playing two people are playing monocolored decks in their like match colors, and then one person's playing something else, and it doesn't affect them. They're still gonna be like, you know what? Let's kill that Iona, like just because it brings on the hate of the table, and I think that you deserve it.
Not long ago, like before this was banned, I was playing a game and I was playing my Azuri elves. And I had Azuri and a bunch of elves on the field, and they played Iona and they named mono green. And I was like, okay. And then I just overran them with elves. I just pumped my mana into it and killed them. Because Iona's still just a creature. Like, you might stop me from casting one thing, but like...
Yeah, it's not like it has like gives you like an all-encompassing blanket of protection from the color. It just stops cast.
Yep.
So it doesn't completely shut down. Like whatever you have on the board, you can still use.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing stopping you from doing it. And like, yeah, again, I don't know. I just didn't see it as inherently that unfun. There's a lot of cards I think are way more annoying than the occasional 9-drop. And everyone's like, oh, well, you can cheat her out. I have, to date, never seen her as a commander. A single time. I've never seen anyone sit down with an Iona commander deck.
It's too expensive. The only people that play like expensive commanders
You're gonna
are
run
dragon players.
Are you going to run mono white 9 cost in the command zone?
I don't think
Sure,
so.
21 turns into the game, you might be a threat, but
Like
No.
it's not worth it, and it's
Yeah.
it's so much harder to mana ramp in mono white. It's hard to. And
well,
it's,
and a lot of the things like you can't Quicksilver Amulet this out of the command zone,
it's really brutal.
right?
So, and it's again, like, it's not like it's indestructible. It's not like it has protection. It's not like it's hexproof. Like, it's easy to target. It's easy to get rid of.
The last card that is on the things I think should come out
Daniel's like,
is one that
little
I
pet
don't
card.
think anyone agrees with me on, but it's Primeval Titan. Primeval Titan is very strong, I agree. That's why I want it unbanned. But it is not a format breaking card. Like, you can get 2 lands on enter, 2 lands on attack. Sure. Okay, it's on a 6/6 trample. It's still a creature, can still be responded to, and it gets you 2 lands at 6 mana. Hour of Promise gets me 2 lands to the battlefield as well at 5 mana. It's not as big of a problem, so like, yeah, sure, you can argue it's on the body, but then is everything that's successfully cast on the body now ban-worthy?
And then you can also like shut it down with a Torpor Orb, a Hushwing Griff, anything there with an ETB knockout.
Yep. You can block and kill it.
Yep.
and the other thing too is that, like, again, it's not indestructible. It's not hexproof. It doesn't have a shroud. There's no protection.
Well,
like,
and it's also
a creature.
the most important thing is it's a creature that isn't legendary. This cannot be your commander.
No.
So like, yeah, like you
you
can
have to hit it. In
sure you can tutor it out and stuff, but again, there's way more annoying things. I would argue Vorinclex is more annoying than this.
Heck yeah.
You know, like where you don't get your
And
lands
that
and stuff.
can be your
Like,
commander.
because
Eat the
is
friends.
the complaint suddenly that like, oh no, we don't want green to outramp us? Like,
What?
where have you been for every other card they play?
I guess. Or that being said, when you could cheat out 2 lands like a Vesuva or a Thespian Stage in a Dark Depths,
But I would argue that Dark Depths is the problem.
not wrong, but
But the other thing too is like, you can do that in every green deck.
Yeah.
You can go get so many. Like my Golos deck can like play 4 lands a turn all the time. Golos himself comes and fetches any land into play with a cast ability on it. So he's legendary. He can hit the command zone and automatically, like, if you have 5 lands out and you get Golos, you can go fetch the first time Temple of the False God, and even if he dies, you've paid for him again. Somebody, you know, they remove him, you can cast him again without having to worry about that next mana to also get mana again.
Yeah.
Right? He's it's just like his ETB is strong, but lots of ETBs are strong, right? Like there's so many on attack triggers. Like Kalia is arguably a way stronger attack trigger than getting 2 lands. You know, putting in like something enormous like a Master of Cruelties to 1-hit people, like again, it's back to
even
what
something like that isn't even that strong, but with a similar ability, which is Sword of the Animus.
Yeah.
When it attacks,
get a basic land.
get
Yeah,
a land.
no one thinks that's a crazy broken
For the
card.
ramp, like I don't know.
It's just he gets you land, but at the same time, like,
Nah.
Well, what an eloquent description.
I like things that like fetch lands and stuff, but like he basically does like what a Sylvan Scrying does times 2 on a body, and it's I don't know. He just to me doesn't seem that format breaking. I played Commander initially when he was Commander legal. I didn't see people fighting over him, or everyone's like, oh, well, he's a reanimation target. Well, yeah, lots of annoying things are reanimation targets. I reanimate Jin-Gitaxias and Muldrotha all the time. That's way more annoying than a Primeval Titan.
I would argue, yes, that is correct.
Yeah, like there's lots of things. I get Shouldered back. I get like Platinum Imperium back, so my life total can't change. There's just a lot of things that are like just because a card is good doesn't mean it's...
Just because a card has good potential also.
Doesn't mean it's ban-worthy and stuff, because like every Windgrace deck you're ever going to see is going to have ways to go get lands. Nylia's Intervention, a new card where you can go and pay X and get X amount of lands to your hand. If you don't think a green deck has a way to get those lands out, you're out of your mind.
Yep.
So is having extra lands really that different? Like, the green deck might be on 8 mana when you're on 6, if you're both playing at a similar speed.
Yeah, my concern with green is never that, like, oh no, they're out-ramping me. Like, if they're playing green, I expect that they're going to be disgustingly out-ramping me, and I'm just going to have to deal with them some other way.
Well, yeah, the end of the day, it's a 6/6, and that's not a crazy card.
I'm going to kill it.
Yeah, it has trample and stuff, but it's like, if you look at the other ones that are on the... Look at Sundering Titan. Sundering Titan's also on the ban list. When he enters, it destroys one of each basic land type.
Enters or leaves.
Enters or leaves. Can't forget that or leaves part.
Choose a land of each basic land type and then destroy those lands.
Then you also look at like things like Sylvan Primordial, where it beast withins the whole table, but instead of them getting like a 3/3 beast, you get to go get an extra land. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, for everyone, like they get one of those. Like that is clearly like way more problematic than like I'll
and
fetch
that's
2
a
lands.
6/8.
Yeah.
And the same thing is like
Sheet deck.
there is a better case to like whenever you mention Primeval Titan, everyone brings up that same combo of Dark Depths and Thespian Stage and stuff. Dark Depths is the problem. I've never seen anyone sit there and like, oh well, I'm gonna remove all the counters by paying the mana.
I will remove 1 counter.
Yeah, right? It's always like, I'm going to Vampire Hexmage it, I'm going to make a copy of it somehow so they die because it's legendary. That's how you Dark Depths. And it's a 20/20 flying indestructible. I get it, that's broken, but like, short of that, what are you going to get? Like Field of the Dead?
Valakut?
I have a problem with
Valakut.
Yeah. But it's the same thing. Like, in pretty much every one of those decks, like, you're already going to fetch those out. You know? I've never seen a Golos deck be like, I don't know how I'm going to get to this Valakut. Right? Like, I don't know. I personally don't see the overpoweredness of it.
But I get it. I can stand on both sides, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can stand on the middle of the fence and this being like, yeah, it can be abused pretty good, but is it the abuse, like how they're abusing it, going to really warp the format?
Well, yeah, the other thing is there is control magic stuff. You can reanimate from other people's graveyards. Like, it's just... I don't know. I just don't think that it's crazy. If somebody played a Primeval Titan against me, I wouldn't be like, oh no, this isn't fun. I'd just be like, oh, dope, I love this card. Right? Like, so that's kind of my thing. But the ban list is generally pretty solid. It's pretty small, and there's some other things
It
that
is
should...
very small,
Yeah,
which is
for-
really appreciated.
For how much can be on it, I mean, if those
We
four
have-
stay on it, it's all right.
We
but-
have access to everything, and there's like 40, 60 cards. Bam. Like,
yeah,
not
there's-
very many.
You can't play anti cards.
And you can't play
conspiracy
conspiracies.
cards. Yeah.
I
Nope.
wish. Could you imagine? I wish.
Oh,
I could play
and you can't play the
conspiracies.
uncards.
Yeah,
Uncards.
yeah, duh.
But like, some people will let you play the unset generals.
I won't.
I don't mind.
Never again.
That being said, though, let's talk about things that should be on the ban list.
Let's.
In our opinion. Again, it's just our opinion. It's right, but it's just our opinion. No,
but I also think that this is relative to your play group and your meta, and this is relative to
we
our play.
set up that criteria earlier that things that overtly enable combos are what deserve to be on a ban list. Things that are broken in power, exploit life like the channel so that you can get an overt advantage because of the commander higher life total,
Yep.
or are unfun.
And it's when you're getting way too much value for the card itself.
And globally not fun because there's like some people, like I'm sure one or two people genuinely enjoy playing Winter Orb. They have no soul, but they enjoy it.
But people can like things.
Yeah.
But it's like Painter's Servant, right?
That's the first one we wanted to talk about. Painter's Servant is far more bannable than Iona.
Yes. I agree 100%.
Because Iona has to be banned because Painter's Servant isn't banned.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because then they can't do it. But Painter's Servant Grindstone is like a 3 mana combo to kill people. Versus...
Why don't you explain that
Iona.
combo?
It just turns everything the same color. Like Painter's Servant makes all cards in all zones the color you choose. Mm-hmm. And then Grindstone is target player puts the top 2 cards of their deck into the graveyard. If they repeat, a color share a process, and everything repeats, so you full mill people.
If they share a color, repeat the process.
Yeah.
And if they repeat a color, share the process.
Yeah. No, but yeah, so that's just it.
But
like,
yeah,
that's
you full mill, everybody dies, and that's not fun.
Well, and it's the same thing. It's very easy to make like a deck that runs something like that, and then like I'm going to make a protection from blue deck. I'm going to make a Jaya Ballard deck where I can blow up blue cards and then Painter's Servant everything to blue. Like, yeah, there's Painter's Servant is far worse than the Iona in the
why
case.
it was banned.
Yeah, and like it just to me it didn't make sense to swap them over. Like Iona did not make the game as not fun, right?
It just feels like somebody that deals with the ban list had like a bad Iona day and then was like, screw it.
Yeah.
Switch.
Yeah, so that being said, another card
That's a joke, by the way.
very similar in function is Hall of Gemstone. Hall of Gemstones should be banned. It is it's an enchantment in green. It's 1 green. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player chooses a color. All lands only tap for that color. It is exceptionally annoying. It can ruin people's decks. Like if somebody's trying to play a Kenrith deck or something like that, where their whole point is to use the 5 colored abilities throughout the turn to play a group hug thing, or you're playing Muldroth. I talk about Muldroth all the time. What am I going to choose? I'll choose black, I guess, and then not pay any of my other 3 colors. Like there's, like if you're in an Abzan color, like what do? I'll play white today. It's just not. It is an inherently not fun card for everyone unless you're playing a monocolor deck, and that's what most people run it in. Is they're playing mono green.
I think another card is it's Sundering, right?
Yep.
Just because it's an instant speed. If it's sorcery speed, right, you don't get the benefit of it.
Yep.
I don't know what that does.
It returns all lands to their owner's hand. Sunder.
No.
I don't like that.
Yeah, Sunder's pretty busted. We also have Serra Ascendant on the list. Serra Ascendant is probably one of the strongest arguments to be made for a card that should be banned. This card was never meant for the Commander format. It was never meant to interact in it. And in the Commander format, I do not believe there is a better turn 1 creature that you can drop than Serra Ascendant. Serra Ascendant is just nuts. And yes, I always say that you can just run more removal and stuff, but the stats that you get on Serra Ascendant and Commander are bonkers. It is a 1/1, and if you have 30 or more life, which you start with, it gets 5/5 and flying, and it has lifelink. So you, on turn 1, have a 6/6 flying lifelink. And a 6/6 flying lifelink in white for 4 would be one of the best white cards ever printed.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just absurdly powerful. It's too easy to abuse because if you get to the untap, if somebody doesn't have a 1 mana removal, you're forced to deal with it at that point, right? And that's Commander shouldn't be based around things that you're just suddenly forced to deal with and forced to interact with. And you are. Because if this gets around the table, like, if whoever's playing the Serra Ascendant is the first player, then they're the first one to attack. They're hitting for 6/6 flying, and they're starting the game turn 2, 46 life. Turn 3, 52 life. Like, that's nuts. You know, it's too much value packed into one card. It never should have been a commander available card. It was never meant for commander. It was meant to chip away and reward gaining life, much like Felidar Sovereign is. And Felidar Sovereign is another one that I think is, I do think ban-worthy, because if you can get it out early, like you start at 40 life, it's supposed to function at double the life of what you start at. Mm-hmm. So if it was at 80 life, and if your life total was 60 or above, sure. But like the fact that you just get to inherently abuse the amount of life you start with these cards makes them banlist worthy. I've never seen somebody drop one of these where someone's happy about it, you know? Nobody sees a turn 1 Saracen and they're like, oh, this is great interaction. I really enjoy this.
This seems like it's going to be a really, really fun game.
Yeah.
Right? It's too easy, and white is the king of pumping their own cards.
I was just going to say, like, to that end, like...
And protecting.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah, so that is one. There's obviously another set of cards we have to talk about because it's on everyone's mind right now. It's Flash and Protean Hulk. And I don't personally know if Flash is the problem or Protean Hulk is, but I think Protean Hulk is more, because he just, the value you get in him, again, to go fetch as many cards under a certain power is just, it is the strong part. Because Flash on its own, like, you never hear people that are like, oh, I'm going to Flash Frost Titan and stuff. You never hear anything other than Flash Hulk, right? It's just, the Hulk is the problem, because you get it, you sack it without interaction, and you get it. So one of them's got to go, and one of them is going to be the next announcement to go.
And like it's warped CDH with the new Thassa's Oracle in there.
Yep.
It has really warped it. So I think it's Timena and Thasios is now the top commander.
For everyone who doesn't know it, they're just like partner commanders, and that's the whole point of the deck, is to get the colors and enable them. Protean Hulk is just Flash is a 2-mana card where you put a creature into play and then you sack it immediately if you don't pay its mana cost. So the Thrasios and Timna are entirely irrelevant to what they are. They are just for the colors and for the ability to mana dump into Thrasios and scry/draw. But the whole point of the deck is just to get the colors. People want that, and you want to get the Flash out so that you can go and get combo enabling pieces to end the game. So that's the whole point of it, is that you get like a Machias Walking Ballista. It's total cards with CMC 6, so Machias hits the field, Walking Ballista hits the field, and dies. He comes back to Machias' ability with a 1/1 counter on him, which you can immediately remove to do damage to somebody. It dies to state-based actions and is returned infinitely. So it hits the table for 2 mana, the game is done. That's the issue with Protean Hulk.
That's not fun.
Yeah. So Protean Hulk is format warping, because there's lots of things that can get it out potentially even before the game starts, like Gemstone Caverns kind of thing, right? So it is broken. You can get like a turn 0 win with it, but you again have to have a perfect hand, but it's just annoying and stuff. Yeah. So many decks are having to play around it. This is not a problem card for EDH, but it's only a matter of time before it seeps over into it. And you're actually starting to see Protean Hulk be a staple in Korvold, where you try and abuse Korvold's ability to sacrifice a creature to kill that Protean Hulk and go and get.
Yep.
Right? So any deck that runs like sack triggers, even if you're not flashing it in, it's a green card, it's 7 mana, but 7 mana is not crazy. And it gets
green.
It gets any number of cards with CMC 6 or less. So like you could pull 6 1-drops, you could pull Machias, Triskelion, and like anything that has not Triskelion, Hangerback Walker. So you get Hangerback Walker, Walking Ballista, and Machias, and just continuously cycle through nonstop just damage triggers. That's the whole point of it. Or people go and get like Karmic Guide and stuff like that. Like it's just the...
Yeah, once again, it's just combo enabling, right?
Yeah, it's meant to go and get the loop. But at that point, I don't know what the bigger issue is. Like, what do you ban? Do you ban Flash, which is problematic in no other interaction? Or do you ban the Protean Hulk, which is also not really a problem on its own? It's kind of, but like I think Protean Hulk is the bigger issue.
I think for me, it's got to be Protean Hulk because it's going to be the card you see more over in every other format.
I also think it's more abusable.
That is true. Even Flash is harder to abuse because I like the idea of Flash to be able to... It gives you the ability to instant speed put a creature in, which is a great thing in a deck that needs a defender, needs something out before. It's a good card. However, it does break things with CEDH, and there's... Right now, like it or not, they're tied together. Yeah. What is played in one is played in the other. There's nothing stopping CDH players from playing with a casual table, abusing it, and then people taking that idea and being like, "Well, this will make my deck function better," and this
will make it stronger.
It just power creeps, and you see more. You see it becoming prevalent in even like the Tolarian Community College. They recently had a video where they were discussing CDH, and I'm sure a lot of people got great ideas of, well, let me kick this power level up with this nifty little combo. Oof. Right? And at the end of the day, that's things that we say should be banned are easily abusable, they take advantage of the life, or they're combo enabling, because it's easier to just take out the combo enabler and increase the deck variance than it is to just say, well, we'll just leave it and see how it goes and hope people abide by the social contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because good luck, because not everyone's going to follow that social construct. Some people just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah, well, and at the end of the day, I get it. Like, some people, there's no right or wrong way to play EDH, right? It's whatever you and your friends like. However, I think that things should be based on the general consensus of what most players would enjoy. Yeah. And I'm not most players. I could be wrong. But I don't think most players enjoy shuffling their deck up for 2 turns.
I sure don't.
Yeah.
A lot of games, like, I'll just keep playing.
Yeah, that is one way to respond to something that's like an unfun win. If somebody just combos off and wins on turn 2 or 3, just say great and just finish the game up without them.
Yeah.
Because it really gets people to stop that.
Yeah, or
unless you're my brother who just says he's prestiging and shuffles up and draws 7 cards on his next turn. Yeah. And starts again from 0, which is actually kind of funny.
Yeah, that honestly doesn't annoy me because it doesn't stop me from playing, and I recognize that he won.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's fine.
But yeah, so we think that like cards like that should be for the same amount of the combo enabling. Isochron Scepter and Chain Veil both deserve to leave. Chain Veil, for anyone who doesn't know, it is you pay 4 mana, tap it. It could be 5 mana. I could be wrong. I don't know the exact cost. I'm not looking at the card right now. Regardless of what it is, it lets you use your Planeswalker ability another time, and it doesn't stop there. So if you have like an Estrid or a Teferi, and you've used Chain Veil 6 times because they both had the ability to untap it, you can just use it on the new instance that you've recast another 6 times. So it just lets you activate Planeswalker abilities X more times each turn for every time you do it. And it's if you look at the comparison, Oath of Teferi. Oath of Teferi is very strong, but it lets you do it once. It's not repeatable, it's not breakable. And the same with Isochron Scepter, because Isochron Scepter and Dramatic Reversal are a staple CEDH combo to try untap for infinite mana to do X, Y, and Z.
And another thing, too, is like, you can play those in any color.
Yep, exactly. They are available pretty much anywhere. Isochron Scepter is just really easy to annoy people with, to be honest. The classic Isochron counterspell. One of my old favorites, Isochron Silence. Just sit there and lock someone entirely out of a game.
You can go infinite mana with Isochron.
Yep, Isochron and the Dramatic Reversal.
Yep.
But you can also just like play annoying things. Like I have just played specifically like decks that interact with Isochron and then copy spells. Isochron's it's fun, but only for whoever controls the Isochron. I was going to say
only for...
If you don't control the Isochron, then, like I said, it's pretty not great.
Well, and it's the same thing with the Chain Veil, like you said. Like, it's very easily... it's easy to manipulate it out of its original intent.
I'm going to say something controversial. I hate Super Friends decks. They bore me to death. I understand that you have a collection of dice. I get it. But, like, let's play the game and stuff. Like, there's just... so many. I'm going to +1. I just don't like that deck archetype. I think that it slow plays the table. I get it. Like, you like Planeswalkers. I don't know. There's not a right or wrong way to play. That's just my personal preference. I'm not a fan of it.
You're not really a planeswalker guy though at all.
But that being said, I think that like the Chain Veil really, really wrecks it. So then they can just things that make people play like a slow like dig for an answer just bores me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just like you guys know, I actually had a Super Friends deck at one point, and just how time consuming it actually is to actually play too for yourself. It actually kind of loses its fun after like the fifth or sixth time.
Well, exactly, because you're sitting there, you're digging for a doubling season or for whatever planeswalker. You have to, everyone like gets to go take a break and get a pop while you sit there and roll your 20th planeswalker up. You have to take a 5-minute break to go buy more dice because you don't have enough. Like, it's sure it supports the local game store, but at what cost?
To watch the world burn.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like, I get it, but at the end of the day, like, I think the Chain Veil is just another one that's easy to break. There's lots of things that untap artifacts. I think that the best thing you can do is take those combo enabling things out before they become a problem. And I get that a lot of these are coming at the CEDH guys, but like the CEDH guys are going to wreck a lot of the actual EDH because everyone's on this just, in my opinion, irrelevant rant about, CEDH and EDH were the same thing. I'm like, they're not. They're not the same. They don't have the same focus. You might still have fun. You might still have a play group. You might follow the similar weird ban list that's like pretty incomplete right now. And, I'm just building within the rules. And I'm like, yeah, but you're wrecking the game for the people you're trying to play with.
But yeah, because like if they were the same format, then there wouldn't be any sort of distinction between them.
Yeah, you wouldn't call it CEDH. You would just say, I'm just playing a strong EDH deck.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to rank your power level.
Yeah,
Yep.
Nobody would want to distinguish any sort of difference if there was no difference. Like the reason that we call it competitive is because it's a different level of competition. That's just what it is.
The C doesn't stand for casual.
No. So
This is my CEDH deck, and they're like, oh, no way, I'll pull this out. And I'm just playing Kumena with 80 lands.
Well,
I'm like, I thought this was casual.
Well, it's kind of a different way of thinking too. When you're building a CDH deck, right? You're trying to like, how can I perfect this puzzle, right?
Yeah.
Whereas when you're building a casual deck, you're like, what can I do to make more fun?
Yeah.
I want to see more
What will be
interactions.
hilarious?
when you're looking at a casual deck, you're thinking about like how's turn 10 gonna feel, and when you're looking at a competitive deck, you're thinking how's turn 1 and 2 gonna feel.
Yeah,
If it gets past that, I don't want to play.
Yeah, well, you hear all the time, that's too high CMC to run in that deck. Like, you should run what's fun.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you should run what you want to play. And again, like I said many times this episode, there's not a right or wrong way to play and stuff, but I just think that making it so that there's deck variants. So the problem is for a lot of these cards, they create a situation where you have to play against them when they hit on the field. You need if somebody's playing like a Chain Veil Teferi deck or they Dramatic Scepter, Dramatic Reversal, Isochron Scepter, it's essentially no different than a Paradox Engine and stuff. And Paradox Engine's banned, but like this is a 2-mana untap all your non-land permanent. It just, I don't know, why is one banned and not the other?
Yeah.
Right? And Paradox Engine is, again, only good in a certain situation. Isochron Scepter is good if you don't have Dramatic Reversal. It's good if you have a counterspell. It's good if you have anything that is just a solid card to go, bloop, no. Or like I said, you put silence on it and you just wreck someone's game. They do not get to attack or cast a spell for the rest of the game.
And it's kind of like, with going back to the Paradox Engine, right? It's kind of the way, if that's banned, why isn't something like Seedborn Muse banned?
Yep. Seedborn Muse it's arguable. Seedborn Muse, I think, rises right to the edge of what should be banned because it's so good.
But it's a creature
So
and
good.
it's colored.
It is a creature, it is colored, but it's so good. I would say if you're banning at a 10, Seedborn Muse is at a 9.
But the thing to me is like exactly that. Like, where is that line?
Yep.
You know, like where's the line between 9 and 10?
That's true.
It's because I think that's all relative. Like what we might consider 9s or 10s. In
Seedborn isn't unfun specifically. You get value, but yeah, exactly. The majority of players aren't going to see it as not fun to play. They're going to be like, oh, they have a Seedborn. Right? So it's... Seedborn's basically free if you think about it. When you put Seedborn down, if you have the mana, you're getting it back next turn.
I don't know. I just like, for me, it's just like when I see someone play a Seedborn, I'm like, oh great, it's gonna cast stuff on my turn. There could be instant speed board, I can't say instant speed, but there's gonna be like it's usually running blue green.
Yeah, no one plays it for their sorcery
Yeah.
speed plays, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so like there's a few things, but back to like the fun aspects, back to basics. Blood Moon. Like things like that, like Rising Waters. Things that are making your lands not tap or not untap, like back to basics for everyone who's not aware of the card, a blue enchantment that makes it so non-basic lands do not untap. That is inherently unfun unless people have an answer on deck. I play lots of decks that have like crazy land bases. Like my Golos, I think, has 6 basic lands in it.
Yeah, that's like my dragons.
So that's what I mean. I have to not only have my basic lands on deck, I have to have the answer and the untapped mana, or I just get to sit at the table and do nothing.
Well, and that's it. It's like, and like I said, like with my dragons, with every set that comes out, it loses basic lands.
Yeah, well, and at the end of the day, like the more colors in your deck, the more you're likely going to have to work on that land base, right? You're going to have to really put effort in to fix it, to get it going and stuff. Like you're not going to play a Sliver Queen deck with just basic lands and just hope for the best.
Yeah, like the more colors in any deck, the more fine tuned my land bases get, because they have to. Otherwise, it doesn't, like, your deck doesn't play. You know, if I'm sitting there holding 3 swamps in an Atraxa deck, I'm not doing anything.
But that's just it. And this is a card that can fully take someone out of the game.
Yeah.
And if someone else is unwilling to answer it, the game can be shut down as early as like turn 2 for them with these cards.
Well, and like that's one thing that we've all kind of landed on opinion wise is that any cards that stop you from playing Magic,
should be at least considered, because at the end of the day, this does stop you from playing Magic. You do not get the option to untap your lands, and if you don't, like I said, if your lands are tapped out, if I tapped out my 5 gates or something, and then you sit there and you drop that down, what do I do for the rest of the game?
Nothing.
Hope someone else is willing to let me untap my cards,
right?
Or sit there and just twiddle my thumbs.
Right.
Same thing goes to Blood Moon when it turns everything to a mountain, right?
It's at least you have a little land there, but it's the exact same thing. It turns a deck off.
Yeah, and if you're not playing any red in that deck, right? Unless you have an artifact, what are you doing?
Yep.
Well, and excuse me, I had a big yawn in my body.
Hate when that happens.
Yeah. But I was gonna say, like, to the end of stopping you from playing Magic and the consideration for banning, and not even necessarily like official banning, but even just again going back to that social contract and your play group and your meta, like there are some things that just like aren't fun and that you kind of just don't play as a group because it's just not the thing.
When's the last time any of us have actually played a Stasis?
Stasis is just, again, not fun.
Yeah.
Dean.
Leave him alone. He's funny.
I'm not saying anyone's name, but Dean.
You know what? I'll give it to him though. He owns it though.
Dean does own
that's
it.
The thing. Is like I don't care that he plays stuff.
People are like, oh, Stacks, and he's like, Stacks.
He's like, yeah, I love it.
You're not gonna have fun, but let's play.
You're not gonna have fun, but I'm gonna have fun watching you not have fun.
He makes stack games fun. I will say that Dean's a fun guy to play with.
Yeah.
Probably the only
Stacks player that's fun.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
Dean, we've crowned you the king of stacks.
You see,
this is from DeBrian.
Respect.
But yeah, there's a few more cards we want to go over. There's not too many. One, I believe, is ban worthy, is Expropriate. Expropriate is overtly powerful. It's one of the Will of the Council cards, and it's you vote for time or money. For everyone who votes time, you get an extra turn, so you always get at least one extra turn if you want.
Yeah.
The trick is, don't ever vote time.
But that's the other thing. Then they just get to, for everyone who votes money, you get to choose a permanent they control, and you take it. So, like, there's
no winners.
Yeah, it's just like it's just not a very fun card. Like, it's always in conjunction with something that's copying it, and so they're taking 2 extra turns, they're taking whatever the best thing you've built up is. Like, it's just it's inherently not fun. It's expensive, relatively speaking, but when it hits the field, it's generally a groan.
Yes. That's very fair. I don't really even think that there's even more to add to that. It's just like, it sucks, and next.
There's 2 more before we get to the king of cards that needs to be banned. Number 1 is...
Yeah, guess what that one is.
Number 1 is Liliana Dreadhorde General. Absolutely deserves to be banned. That card is overtly powerful on every aspect of the card. For what it does, like, its mana cost is not absurd. It the static ability alone is a great card.
It's all Grim Horror specs.
Yeah, exactly. It's you draw whenever your creatures are dying. That's awesome.
Which is awesome. Draw, I don't know how many times we have to say it. Draw is everything.
It makes things to protect itself.
Yep.
It forces
Get some
everyone
zombies.
to sack creatures.
Yep.
So it's a built-in sack effect. And if you get its alt off, which because you can build make things to protect itself, is not hard.
Yeah.
This is probably the Planeswalker I have seen alt the most.
By far.
Yes.
Because it's generally people I've seen so many times, it hits the deck with a Grave Pact on board or something like that. Everyone sacks 2 creatures, which turns into everyone else sacks 4 creatures. And then you're locked out of the game while they roll it up, continuously making zombies to protect itself, and then make you sack down to 1 of each permanent type. One of the absolute strongest alts in the game.
Yeah. It's nasty. Well, and this is the Planeswalker that I see go off the most often, but intentionally. It's not one of those ones where people forget that you have your Planeswalker out and they don't attack it, and it's just oh man, I can't believe it got off. This one, you get there on purpose. It's very, very purposeful, and it's brutal, and it hurts, and there's nothing that hurts quite like land destruction, except land destruction in conjunction with everything else destruction.
And not even destruction. It's your indestructible doesn't stop it. It's just the sacrifice of it.
Yeah.
This is a card that is ban list worthy, and you're going to see more and more of it until it's banned. It's right now still a little high in the price range, but not much. I think it's $15-$16.
But they're hard to find.
For now, because they're still a standard card right now.
Yes, that's true. And then,
But once it's not,
Flood that
this
market,
will
baby.
flood EDH.
what are we going to put in a stained glass? I
Yeah.
want that stained glass.
Oh, that stained glass so bad. She's so beautiful.
But that's what I mean. It's just
Who here has a
this
crush
card
on
is
Liliana?
very, very strong. They're both raising their hands. I don't know why. But yeah, they
Did you not hear me?
Yes, I heard
Oh.
you. I heard you. No one could see you.
She's beautiful.
But anyways, the point is that it just has too much value packed into it and stuff. If you took away its negative, maybe, and it just had a plus and a minus, sure, if it didn't have the static ability, but just the whole package of what she has, it does, in my opinion, push her into ban worthy. And like I said, it is
She's the perfect woman.
it's the Planeswalker I have seen go off more times than any. The percentage amount of times that I've seen her go off in games is crazy.
He says as though he knows how to do math.
The only close second I can ever think of, as much as I've seen Liliana go off, is Teferi.
Yep.
Big Teferi.
Yep. And that's the same thing. People are trying to do it to break something.
Yeah.
Right? So, second last card on our list, Aetherflux Reservoir. Aetherflux Reservoir's got to go. Aetherflux Reservoir is just, it's... every deck that runs it is meant to do one of 2 things. Either they've gained life the whole game, because they're the Sarah Ascendant player we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and now they have 151 life and everyone dies.
Well, even if they have 52 life, they have the
3,000.
nuclear threat on deck in a life gain deck. So they're, for the moment you try target them, they can blap, kill you.
Yeah.
Or it's meant as the combo finisher for every Storm deck or every deck that sits there and I'm gonna play Hercule's Recall and drop 6 more of these, because it starts counting from the time from how many you've cast this turn, not when it's on the field, right? So you can also hold a priority. A lot of people don't know that. The fun thing about the card, at least stack wise, is that you can, if you have a Leyline of Anticipation or your commander's Wrath Capuchin or something, you can sit there and you can it's on deck. You can flash 6 cards. So you flash, the trigger goes on the stack, you hold priority. You flash, trigger goes on the stack, you hold priority, flash, and do it so that when they all resolve, the triggers resolve, you gain a life for each. So instead of gaining 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, you gain 5, then 5, then 5, then 5, then 5. You gain, so it's interesting that way. But it is a game-ending card. It gives you life on cast, which is also pretty broken. Mm-hmm. It has that instant speed, pay 50 life, nuke a player out of the game.
Yeah.
I think it is one of the strongest cards in the game. Mm-hmm. It can go into any deck at any time. It is a combo enabling card, and it's the nuclear threat. It's a bomb at the table.
Yep.
I run it and Joe it just for the life gain on itself.
Yep. So it is one of the one of the strongest cards I think that has seen print, just in sheer ability of what it can do. There's not a deck that does not function well with gaining a life every time you cast a spell.
Yeah.
And then the fact that it has exponential growth per spell you cast each turn just makes it, in my opinion, too strong. I ran it in a lot of decks for a long time, and it just is too... It's too easy to kill people with.
Yeah.
At 4 mana and tutorable, it's just too much.
And it happens quick.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and that's just it, right? You put it on the field, and then somebody tries to do anything to you. And then, like, boop. Yeah, nobody plays it when they have, like, 30 life, and they're like, all right,
No.
this is fine. And if they do, it's because they're about to storm combo win.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it is a deck-ending... It's a game-ending card. It's like a deck staple for combos.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's just... there's a few cards that need to see some bans or restrictions, and I think it's one of them. I think it just is too strong on its own.
Yeah, which is, like, it's kind of unfortunate, because, like, it's a card I like. It's a card I very much enjoy, but I agree, you know? It's 50 damage on a stick, especially because, like, if you're going to use, like you said, like, if you're going to use the 50 damage, it's because you're not worried about losing 50 life.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's just it. You're starting at 40 life, so if
It's
you've
not hard
gained
yellow.
you've gained no life, you can get to that 50 life really easy once it hits the board. Like, it's just it just has too strong of an ability, but not as strong as the next card.
Wait. I have one more. If you don't know what it does, it's actually kind of a staple in green decks, right? But if you don't know what it does, like, you can look it up. But this is probably one of my other cards that should be talked about.
What?
Is Burgeoning.
Burgeoning's pretty strong,
Burger
but
King.
it's the same thing. It only functions with lands. It's really easy to run out of gas.
Yeah.
So I'd say Burgeoning's up there at the top around the Seedborn Muse, but
That 9 slot.
yeah, but I don't think it's unfun.
No.
The
Right?
thing with burgeoning is, like, okay, I see how, again, like, it can really go off, but also, like, it's green. Like, I'm probably gonna go off anyways.
Yeah,
Put it in a 5-color deck.
For
Tell me
me.
how that goes.
yeah. It's I don't know.
I do. I have it in my dragons. So, but it just.
But again,
helps.
you run out of gas with it, right? And then
Yeah.
like sure, you might have 4 lands earlier than everyone else, but you're just gonna miss the next 3 land drops.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, like, in the multicolor decks that I have burgeoning in, I'm not usually running a ton of draw in those decks because there's so many different things happening. So I'm usually not focusing on draw. So more times
That's
than
fair.
not, I run out of cards. I run out of lands.
But anyways,
So
the king of cards that need to be banned. Honorable mentions be gone.
yeah,
The king of cards.
that 2 of the other hosts would not agree with, but they're not here.
That is true. They aren't here,
That's what they brought me on.
Sucks to suck.
and they're also wrong. But anyways, it's Cyclonic
And I'm
Rift.
yes,
Cyclonic Rift
get
is
out
the
of my
number 1 contender for a
Get
card
out of my
that
game store.
should be banned.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
100%.
Cyclonic Rift is far too overpowered in a 4-man format. The amount of value you get at it is nuts. I've said it many times. If it wasn't instant speed, maybe. If it's
If it was just a 2 cost to exile target, fine.
but that's the
That's
thing.
fine.
It puts everyone back to basically state 1 of the game
Yeah. If you don't
minus
have,
some lands.
if you don't have no max hand size, also, that's
You're making people throw a lot of things that they worked to get out.
yeah.
The fact that they can do it before their turn starts and not be inconvenienced by it. But it's just, again, we talk about things that are unfun to play against. There's nothing fun about one person retaining their board state while everything else is gone in every blue deck. I hear it all the time that it's like the blue staple and it's number 1. It's the blue staple because it's the most broken card in our format. It is the card that needs to go the most. I ran it in many decks before, and I've taken it out in all except one of my saltiest decks, which is Rashmi. There's a reason it's in that. It's because it's not fun.
Yeah. Like that deck. The point of that deck isn't to make friends.
Yeah, it's to annoy everyone.
Yeah.
And thank you, spell things.
And it's just like, if you feel the urge to play this, there are better options, like Winds of Abandon,
Yep.
River's Rebuke, right?
Well, River's Rebuke is the same thing. River's
a
Rebuke
great
is a
example.
great card. 1 less mana, sorcery speed. one target player.
Yeah.
This was not a card that was ever meant to hit the commander format. It was never meant to bounce. If everyone you're playing with only has 5 permanents out when you have 7 mana, you're already ahead of them.
Yeah.
But you're bouncing 15 permanents for 7 mana.
Yeah.
At instant speed. It's nuts.
At
it is,
least.
Yeah. It's just like, that's what I mean. If everyone just has that like little bit out. And for every extra player in the game, the card just, the absurdity of it just goes up.
Yeah, the
and
value of the utility.
I don't know about you guys. I've played many 6-player games. I've played 7-player games. I've played huge games. And it just, the more people in the game, the more value is packed into that card. And it just...
All I'm saying, though, is if somebody Cycrifts me, they better win.
And that's the other thing. Cycrift is the card that makes me the absolute saltiest.
Yeah.
And if I know you run it, I'm going to kill you first in games. It's what I always do. I will always target players who I know run Cycrift because I'm not going to pick my board up if I don't have to. I'm going to kill them regardless of threat, regardless of if they're having a good game. You are more likely to be my strip mine lock target if you're playing that stuff. Like, you are calling the salt down on yourself by playing that absurdly broken card. But I mean, I don't really have strong opinions on this one.
But
No.
I feel that. But that's the thing is, like, if you better win that
Yeah.
turn. Because, like, if you don't win, then one, what's the point? You're just stalling out until you can maybe find a win con? Like, that's boring.
Yeah, and then
But-
watching everyone rebuild their board states
Yeah,
while
like,
you're just doing
What's
Well,
the
and like
point?
maybe dick all for
like
the whole
Hope
game.
mentioned, you're sitting there discarding everything that you work to build unless you have no max hand
So I'm gonna
size.
try to kill you.
Yeah,
If you
and-
do that, I'm going to all of my power and rage is going to be targeted at directly you. If you dropped a signet, I'm gonna destroy it.
You should leave what happens in a game at the end of the game. It's a fun game. We're trying to do that. I am unable to do it when someone cycles the board. I'm mad at them for the night because it's not fun. It is just, like I said, everyone says it's a blue staple, and it's because it is absurdly powerful. There is no card in the game that gives you such a big advantage at 7 mana at instant speed in every blue deck.
Yeah.
It just gives you it's just not a fair card. If someone is not playing around that card and you have it, you have shored the game up for yourself, basically.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
power difference that it
Enables.
enables is disgusting. Like it puts like you said, like it puts everybody back to like turn 2 and it puts you at turn 10, you know.
Well, and
It's
again,
just-
it just the better other people are doing, the better value that card has packed into it,
Oh, yeah.
and that's the issue with it, right? So you just have the lucky chance of the other thing too is you can still cast it for 2 mana, so it's still an early game response if they absolutely need it.
Yeah.
And then it's an end game absolute bomb. It's like having 2 different things. So you can save yourself early if somebody is coming at you aggro, or you can late game just like totally overwhelm the table. And again, you can just build a trash deck. Your deck cannot be good, and you can just ruin the board states of 3 better deck builders than you
Yeah.
by this one card. Just Sacrifica, blur.
Well, and one of the reasons I think that I like personally get very annoyed with it is that I play a lot of decks that generate tokens, and I also play a lot of decks that generate counters, and I lose both.
Yep. Well, and you love the big creatures. You're the
Yeah.
Timmy at heart. You're
Yeah.
Timette. you love those things.
Mash.
Yeah, and that's you bounce 7 of Hope's 6-cost creatures. She's gonna lose her mind.
Yeah. You can see it in my eyes. There's just like this nasty twitch that happens.
So that's
I've never seen it. I don't play Cycrift. There's just better cards to play though.
I agree.
that's kind of our take on it. If you were to ban a card, what would you put on the list? And would you take anything off? Are we wrong about the ban list? And are these cards oppressive?
I do have one more thing to add.
Okay.
Those mystery boosters, damn, that
Oh.
one open.
You know what? Yeah, we need to just
But
take a second.
before 1 second, let's finish closing this out. Then we'll talk mystery boosters
Okay.
for one quick moment.
All right.
Let us know in comments on Instagram. Leave a review. Join the Discord and come show me your Braids deck and show me that it's the right way. Show me I'm wrong about these cards.
Yeah. Like I said, decimate them.
Yes.
Do it.
Thank you so much for listening. Now, before we go, the mystery boosters, the most fun product to ever be printed, in my opinion. I had a blast opening that product. It was so fun. I have to apologize to Tyrone, who I said it was a dumb product.
So
to.
did I. I told him don't buy a box, and here we are.
I bought a box, and it was
Had a
amazing.
hell of a time.
It was probably one of the best boxes
Best
I've ever
value.
pulled. I'm sitting there pulling foil Sen triplets. I'm getting foil Maelstrom Nexuses and Maelstrom Archangels. Like, this was a great box.
Like-
It was a lot of fun.
The foil Amulet of Vigors.
Yeah.
Like you're hitting Teferi's protections. There's so
they
much.
included demonic tutors in it,
Yeah.
Rhystic Studies,
Yeah.
Weathered Wayfarers.
It was
Carpet
pretty.
of Flowers. Just,
Yeah.
oh my god.
It was dope.
Oh, there's skull clamps in it. I pulled some of those.
Yeah.
I got an Alhemerit's
Just
Archive
like all
in
these
it.
things that we just always need.
And I
It
run
was-
Alhemerit's Archive
Alhemerit.
in everything I can.
Nice.
And one of my favorite things about Open This is it's just going through the history of Magic, right?
Yep.
It's like you see everything.
Yeah, there's things from so many places, and there's just so many cards that needed a reprint.
Yeah.
There's no other way to put it. So many cards were just not accessible. The foil intruder alarm. Foil intruder alarm in the packs.
Yeah, it was definitely a nice little gift to the players from Magic. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was. I went and I was like, whatever. I'll pick a box up because it is what it is. I was going to spend some money at an event, but obviously things slowed down a little, so the event was canceled. So I decided, well, I'm gonna go where I like to go, and I'm gonna buy a box. And there was lots of boxes, and now there's no boxes.
Yeah, for good reason. Also to that end, I just want to note, if anybody is missing Friday Night Magic, we are hosting through our Discord some games. If you've got a webcam, we're doing games over there. If you want to find somebody to play with over the internet, please feel free to reach out.
Message one of the admins on Instagram or
Yeah.
Facebook. We'll give you a
We'll get
Discord
you.
link, and
We know that everything's crazy right now, so we hope that everybody's staying safe and having fun and playing Magic at home and kind of doing whatever you need to do. So yeah, stay safe, stay healthy, and we love you guys. And we'll see you next week.
thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.